Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel, Maverick's Arcade. Today is the day we finally got the button video worked on and finished for you guys, so check it out. Beside me here, I've got my nephew, Jimmy. He's visiting us from South Carolina due to Florence. Say hey, Jimmy.
Hi.
So he's also got his own YouTube channel he's working on building. What's the address or the name to go to that?
Capital E, Exo, capital R, Rides. Space in between.
Cool. So he's doing some videos of him riding his bike around town, and he's been playing with some of the video software, so he's going to start upgrading the production quality on those videos a little bit. But what we're talking about today is the new, what are they called? The Ultimarc new Goldleaf RGB illuminated push buttons. Now these are a lot different than the previous buttons we've had. I know I keep saying and that's fine. Difference with these buttons is, and you remember I got my first one from Andy when I was in London, but he sent me the rest so I could do a full test on them. But the connectors for the RGB, they've always been on there, but the little end pieces are already on there, so you don't have to put those on. And then the switch is actually already inside. And let me put it on the top camera view so you see this a little more clearly. Outside of my arm. Didn't really think of that angle, did I?
No, it's not really working.
Yeah, it's not really working. But anyway, so we will just go this way. So check that out. Little button inside there is always in there. Now, those connectors are smaller than normal, and Ultimarc recommends that you get these smaller little clips. Now, I was able to squish down the size clips that are default for the rest of the iPack and RGB buttons, and they were able to fit. But for a more snug, secure fit, you want to definitely look for those replacement wires, and it'll be a little tighter connection. Another thing that's different about this button is it's quiet. It's a lot quieter than the previous buttons, and there's actually RGBs on both sides. It's got two sets of RGBs to help distribute the color more evenly. According to his website, these buttons, you can mash them to hell, and then it's impossible to damage the Switch from, aggressive gameplay. So that's one thing that's got the Switch's got going for it. Now we're going to test it a little more thoroughly here in a little bit. But as you can see from the past video, the other video I had Ultimarc Classic RGB and Ultra Luxe LED buttons. If you haven't seen that video, check it out, because we've laid the buttons out in the same way as we did previously. And we're going to just basically test them against each other so you can see how they are. Now, let me go ahead and shut them all off, and we're going to dim the light a little bit on this camera so you can see a little more clearly what's going on. We're going to dim that down. That's a pretty good level right there. So the first button that we're showing you here, this is the Classic RGB. This is the one that I was really excited to get because it was concave, and in my last video I did mention the one thing that was kind of annoying to me was that this outer ring right here was very visible. And let me dim the light just a little more, and you can see how apparent that ring is. Then the next button we're showing is the Ultra Luxe button with the transparent case. And that's, again, very, very white on that one. It's a very bright light. Then the next one is basically the same button, except for it's got the chrome pattern shell, right? And then this is the last one. This is the brand new one. And our immediate reaction is that it looks more dim than most. It's not as bright, but the color reproduction seems to be more on point. The difference also, though, is instead of the ring being dark here, you get kind of an extra illumination around the ring here. So you can still see the ring of the concave motion, but it's a better looking button. And what did you say when we were over there? Your impression of the buttons? What'd you think about them?
I said that the ring on this one is skinnier, so it's not as noticeable, but it is dimmer, but it sounds a lot better, it looks a lot better.
Okay. So one thing he had an idea for, which I did not do in the previous video, which I really do appreciate, is we're going to attempt, for the first time ever, a sound comparison. So I'm going to move this a little closer to the mic, and we're going to be completely quiet otherwise. And he's going to mash on each of the buttons. Mash each of them 5 times, but just be quiet otherwise. Let's hear the difference in before you hit the button. Let's do these two are the same. So let's do this one first 5 times, and then do this one 5 times.
Okay. And I'm hitting these all the same strength.
So those obviously sound pretty close together. The mechanics are all the same in those buttons, and the switch on the bottom is the same. And also, even in the classic RGB, the actual switch is the same, but you get a lot different sound out of the classic RGB. So you hit that one 5 times. So again, it's a very loud clacking noise, which I have found distracting. When I first installed those, I noticed that clacking, didn't care for it, but I loved the concave. So then comes the new button, the new Goldleaf RGB. So go ahead and hit that one 5 times. Totally different sound, much quieter sound. I think I'm going to like this a lot more. Like I said, we haven't done any intense gaming yet, but I do feel like I'm going to like this more when my son's playing the arcade and I'm trying to do work over here. I have a feeling that that button's going to be a lot less stressful. Oh, yeah. So what we're going to do real quick is we're going to go from the buttons. I'm going to go from the classic ones to the classic RGB down to the new one. And I'm going to do that pattern 5 times with the same strength so you can hear really carefully what the difference in the sound is between the buttons. So as you can see, this one definitely sounds a lot quieter. It's also got more of a soft feel to it. I know some people really like to feel that hard clicking switch feeling. I'm not sure how I feel about that yet. Like I said, this button just looks a lot cleaner. It feels nicer. I'm interested to see how that's going to play out. But one real quick thing, we're going to do a little quick fast forward video here. This is Jimmy installing the buttons for me. I love child labor. We're calling it internship, but I didn't have to do it. And, you know, it did also, we did get to see that the network cables that I ran to connect that board to the case so that I could easily pull the board out was a lifesaver. That definitely paid off. And then we had one issue, and that was I had him plug the wires back in when it was really dark behind the case.
I didn't have a flashlight.
Didn't have a flashlight, and I did have one that I could have given you. So that's kind of my fault. But the red and the orange got mixed up. Now, if you remember when I was saying during the control board video, I said make sure to document where you're plugging everything. Luckily, I still had my documentation on how I had everything wired, and that came into play really well because we noticed players 2 and 4 on the front of the case were not lit up. And we were starting to get a little nervous about it. I said, wait a minute, I think I have that documented. Looked at the document, was able to tell exactly which wire it was. We got the flashlight out, and that's when we realized the 2 were switched. We flipped them back, and it was perfect. So, definitely, lesson confirmed. Document everything as you go, especially when you get into a complicated wiring pattern. So he was able to actually switch all those switches out for me. Once that little wiring issue was put back, everything works perfectly. We've gone ahead and tested it yet, but again, we just haven't done the in-depth gameplay, which we're going to do soon. Now, so you've already seen the video of him putting the switches in.
Another thing is this one doesn't move as much. That one moves a ton.
That's a good point. Yeah, this switch.
Please don't move to that.
This one definitely feels a lot more solid.
Yes.
So we're gonna play some video games here in a second and splice that in. So edit. Here is the gameplay. Alright guys, so we're going to test out a couple of the video games here. We have the new buttons installed on my side, and we have the original classic RGB buttons installed on Jimmy's side here. So we're going to each play some games. We're thinking, definitely we're going to start off with Street Fighter, then a game or two of Mortal Kombat, and then we're going to just play a couple of other classic arcade games. And we're going to speed through. We're not going to make you watch us do all that, but we want to definitely try each game switching sides to see what, get a good comparison. And again, you're going to get to see top-down view of us playing these games as well. So let's go ahead and we're going to turn up the volume for ourselves a little bit. Oh, that feels nice.
I know that feels so good.
Alright, so I have my own feelings about these buttons, but I'm going to let Jimmy speak first. Because we both played both sides.
Yes.
What'd you feel was, how was it here? How was it here? How was it different?
Okay, so this one, it felt very good. It felt rigid. I like the way it presses. That one, it kind of moves around a bit, and it's too clicky for me. And really, I think this one is better, because if you don't like clickiness a lot, then this one is definitely the one for you, because this doesn't click. It's got a nice, soft click.
Yeah, that's kind of the same way I felt about it. When I was playing... Now remember, I'm used to these buttons. This is what I've had in the machine for a while. So this was, again, a very different feeling, where the buttons are softer. They don't have that over-mechanical click feeling. Also, when I was pushing the buttons, I felt like it was engaging and actually triggering more accurately without having to mash it sometimes. Sometimes on these buttons, I have to actually push harder than I feel like I should to make sure that the button's engaging. And it may be because the switches are built into these buttons, but it just engages better. Sometimes on these buttons, if I hit the edge of the button, the switch doesn't seem like it's triggering. Whereas here, no matter where I hit on the button, if I push the button, it was being calculated. So I definitely, personally, at this point, am leaning towards these. So we just played Mortal Kombat. Now let's try Street Fighter. This time you'll start on this side, and I'll start on this side.
And if you rewind the footage back, when he started using these buttons, he was like, "Oh, I like these buttons."
Yeah. And I'll... Again. Alright, so let's kick your ass in Street Fighter.
Didn't happen.
Didn't happen. Okay. So play this game. How'd you feel? Which side?
I like these better because I don't have to hit as hard, like you said.
Okay.
And with these, I have to hit a lot harder, so I'm not hitting as many hits.
So the button's not counting as often.
Right.
I, again, would agree. It's same feedback as before. In this game, it just seems more responsive. The length of hitting the button doesn't seem as... even though the button seems a little bit taller, like protruding out of the top, you don't have to hit it as hard to get it to register. And again, it just doesn't rattle. It's very solid feeling, but yet soft at the same time. So let's play one more game. Just to be fair. Why'd you do that?
Let's see. I did it right.
Weird. Not in a bad way. I think otherwise, besides what you discovered, I think the review is still the same with the buttons. But what was it you discovered?
So, if you're playing and you're hitting the button, if you push on it any direction...
Well, let's first confirm, is that true here?
So it's gotta be, like, pushing forward.
It can make a squeak noise.
Yeah.
Or at least that button is. So what we heard was when he was playing, it was making a kind of noise.
And it vibrates like the button.
Because the plastic was rubbing against the other plastic.
Yes.
But that was only when you were hitting it. That's that
angle,
hard angle, correct?
Yes.
And it was still even quieter than this. But if you do hear a little weird squeaky noise occasionally, that might be what it is. But overall impression, where you at?
I really like these. Those I like, but these are my favorite. These are really good.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so there you have it. So, and his official recommendation would be these newer buttons. And I've got to say, even though these are brighter, and if I was just doing my jukebox mode, I'd probably want the brighter lights. As far as the gameplay and the feel for me, and again, the fact that my son likes to play the game while I'm trying to work, the quieter option is much nicer, and again, it feels smoother, and it's just a softer press, and it just feels like it's catching every keystroke. Where this one sometimes feels like it's missing a press. But yeah.
If you like the clickiness and the, what else did you say?
That mechanical feel of it engaging.
Yes, those are the ones for you. But if you don't like that, then these are definitely the ones for you. And if you don't like the noise of it and everything, these are the ones for you.
Alright. So there we go.
Alright guys, thank you for checking out my review of the new push buttons. And also I want to again thank Jimmy for visiting and helping me out with this video, and especially wiring that control panel. Thank you, Jimmy. And yeah, so check out the video. Let me know what you think in the comments, or email me at mavericksarcade@gmail.com. And again, thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching. If you haven't already, please click like on this video and subscribe to my channel for future updates. If you'd like to see more content, please check out the following locations. I primarily use YouTube to store the final versions of my how-to videos. Facebook is used for communication, including notices about upcoming videos, behind-the-scenes photos, and occasional live streams assisting users with their own systems. I also stream on Twitch while recording these videos so you can see behind the scenes, machine setup, and of course the occasional bloopers. Check out these channels and let me know what you guys think. And as always, thanks again for watching.